When you first joined us, I think it was something like 84 hours a week, I think was your average. And that was something that we really, really wanted to bring down. Have we managed it yet?
Yeah. So yes. That's, yeah. So
we're 83 now.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. This is episode 101. Thank you for joining us for another century of fantastic episodes to help you improve your business, make more money, and work less hours. Our guest today, Stephen Gibbens, is an accountant with a difference. Now, don't just switch off because every accountant you've ever met has said that they're different and they're not a traditional accountant. Stephen genuinely is. Most of his clients have next to no sales. He doesn't do any self-assessment forms except for his own. And he runs a freelance finance director service, which specializes exclusively in early stage technology companies doing innovative R&D. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on when you're listening to this. Mr. Stephen Gibbens, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, thank you. Yeah.
This has been a long time coming. We've been very, very keen to get you on the podcast for a little while. And the first thing I want to prod into is this: not a traditional, not a normal accountant, not your usual accountant, because it genuinely is something I think I've heard from every accountant I've ever met at a networking event. They open their pitch with, I'm an accountant, but don't worry, guys, I'm not like most accountants. So is that something that you think that you see a lot of within accountants?
I do see a lot of accountants who have specialities now. I don't see any that have a speciality like we have, just because it's been so specific. I think it was probably the best move I ever made when I set up my own business, was to say, you've got to have a niche and concentrate just on that, because otherwise you're just competing on price. You're just the same as any other accountant. And from my previous job that I had worked for a tech company, so I had all the right experience. I probably just didn't have the confidence to start off with. And also accountants are useless at marketing. So when you start off, I didn't really know what to do. And I think if I'd had, so my business has been going over 20 years now. I think if I'd had you guys at the start, it would have been really useful. So I've only really got like the last 2 years that I think I've got the marketing side right. And I suppose I didn't think that I didn't get marketing right as well. I always thought marketing was just sort of not the sort of person I was, where you sort of brag about how great you are. But now I see marketing as like zooming down into your niche sort of thing, and finding the right people that are your dream clients. So
yeah, it is that for a lot of I think accountants, lawyers, professionals, I'm going to say, marketing is a dark art, and it's seen as this scary thing that other people do, and it's a little bit shady, it's a little bit snake oil salesman. But as you said, it's not. It's genuinely building relationships with the right people. One of the areas that obviously you mentioned tech there. How did you get into tech? Because obviously you've been running your business, 20 years now?
Yeah, I started in September 2002. So yeah, I've done over 20 years now. So I'd worked in a tech company, so it was a medical diagnostic company. So they exported to like over 100 different countries, and I'd done it for like 5 years. So I started off the financial controller, then I became the finance director. And we had a subsidiary company in Vancouver as well. So I got to go over to Vancouver twice as well. But the whole thing was like really high pressure. So it was quite I got sort of all sorts of experience, but probably wouldn't want to relive the experience, but the experience it gave me really put me in good stead for now, basically. So, I mean, it was quite stressful. At one stage, I was running the production side as well, so I had all these scientists reporting to me as well, and there was a dengue fever epidemic at that time. So we had to get. It was like ours was the only test that would prove that you had dengue fever. So it was quite important to get them out to South America where this epidemic was going on, and so we had to get like enough of the antigen, etc., that we could produce a test, and we did that. And then, so we had quite good sales and everything, but it was very high pressure. And then actually we had Prince Andrew came out to see us. And so
is that a good reference to be using?
The thing that I get really annoyed about is I can't remember whether he has a sweaty hand or not when I was shaking his hand.
You didn't have a Pizza Express while you were there?
No, I didn't go to Pizza Express. No. But they did make a big effort to tidy, they repainted the whole place, and all the flowers were replanted and everything before he came. So it was an interesting experience. So it was kind of like really high pressure, but a really good experience. I think I was so stressed then I was at the doctor all the time. So actually, there's another thing that happened to me was one night I was working really late, and I was like rushing out the office. Luckily, there was the sales guy was working late as well. So I was rushing out the office. I had my laptop in one hand and a big like case full of stuff in the other hand, went down the stairs, and the cleaners had just been washing the floor. And I went flying and I broke my ankle. So I would have been lying there overnight if the sales guy hadn't still been in the office. But
thank heavens for 100-hour work weeks, eh?
But I couldn't sue the cleaners because they did have one of these yellow things saying, danger, wet floor, but it was around the corner. I didn't notice it until I was lying there.
You didn't trip over it then?
So I've had a history of like kind of medical problems related to working too hard, basically. So the big thing, the one that really, well, I think once I left that company, I really wanted to set my own business up. And well, my wife was very supportive because we did, it was just, she was working for me as well. So it was taking all our income away to do that. And we kind of worked out we could probably live on sort of half the income that we had before. But I really want to do this. I want to be in control of my own destiny, because I'd worked for bigger companies before and you were always at danger from getting relocated or whatever. So at one stage when we first had our family, I got like moved to a factory down in the Midlands, and that's where my wife comes from. So I was staying with the in-laws during the week and then flying up and down at the weekend. So, I wanted to be in more control of my destiny and also prefer being my own boss. And that was sort of something I wanted to do. But then once I started working, all of a sudden you get paid for every hour. So I actually wasn't earning half as much. I was earning more because I was getting paid for everything I did. But then if you got like 2 or 3 clients asking you for something at the same time, it's like, well, how do I do this? So I'll just keep working. So it'd be like working till 1, 2 in the morning. So I wasn't controlling, what the clients were at. I was just doing whatever they would say, sort of thing. And because there's only me, there was nobody to delegate really to as well. Well, apart from my wife, but she had limited time as well. So that's kind of what happened to me.
How many years were you in that situation, working till 2 and stuff?
Probably just about until I started with well, no, I had this health scare. So basically there was a deal for one of my clients where they were raising VC investment, and because that client became bigger and bigger and bigger, it was almost like half of my time. And I knew it was going to go, and I was trying to keep all the other ones going as well. And I was just working absolutely mad hours then. And there was this one day I'd met my daughter for dinner, and then I was going to a networking thing in the evening. And I just dropped her off at the bus stop and was going to the networking thing, and all of a sudden I didn't feel right. I felt kind of dizzy. So I phoned her up on the phone and said, look, I'm going back to the car. I'll meet you there, sort of thing. She hadn't got on the bus yet. And then when I got in the car, I passed out, basically. She was in the car with me, luckily. And so she was running around she thought I'd had a heart attack or whatever, running around trying to stop people.
How old were you at this stage, Stephen?
It's not that many years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah. So in my 40s, late 40s. And so what happened was I ended up in hospital, and for about 3 days where they did absolutely every check on me. And to start with, until they got the cardiologist, they thought I'd had a heart attack because I got something called atrial flutter that makes your heart rate goes too fast or, out of sync. So until the cardiologist got there, they tested for the enzymes that you produce from a heart attack. It was getting the same thing because my heart was going so fast. Yeah. And so the solution is the paddles that you get in like ER or casualty or whatever, where they shock you. So basically that's kind of like turning your computer on and off or whatever, is you reset with these paddles. So that was what I had to get done. And since then I'm not on any medication or anything. It just taken out to reset me. You'd have thought
you'd have known that working in tech, that turning it off, then turn it back on again would have been the solution.
It's a bit of a drastic solution, though. So that's the other thing I thought was funny when you did that, is they have to shave your chest, because once a guy went on fire when they did it and he had a hairy chest. So anyway, so after that, I thought, well, maybe I've got some sort of heart problem or something. So later on, I was doing my family tree, and you can do the DNA testing thing that kind of speeds it up, because they find people who on the website who are related to you because of the DNA test. And then there's an extra bit that says, if you want, you can see how susceptible you are to disease or whatever. So I thought, I was going to say something like I'm susceptible to heart disease, but it came back saying I was low risk for heart disease. So basically the whole thing was stress related. It was nothing to do with my medical condition. I'm actually quite fit, etc. It was just all completely stress related. So that was kind of taught me a lesson not to do that again. So
can we come back to that in a little bit, I think, but I just want to go back to what the tech, because obviously, you mentioned a little bit there about you working for a tech company and things like that, but obviously setting up yourself as an accountant in your own right, you have, focused on tech. So your clients now involve, concern medical and environmental and lots of other sectors, don't they? What drove you to the tech bit?
Well, it was always something I was interested in. Like even at school, I remember like doing a project on, like how things were going to change to solar power, wind power, etc. But then it wasn't about sort of CO2 or carbon footprint and climate change. It was just that oil and coal, etc. There was a finite amount of it and it was going to run out. And also at school, I was, even then I was interested in things like, well, the kind of sort of what the future would be like with, and now we're basically, the technology is probably even further ahead than what we expected. It's just that by now we're all supposed to be working like 4-day weeks and stuff, and all the robots and things doing stuff, but we've got the technology, but it's not working like that. And so, everyone's like, if you look at the budget, the standard of living is going down, yet, the technology is improving all the time. We should all be much better off than we were then, but it's just not happening. And really, I suppose the accountancy qualification does allow you to do whatever you want to do. So I've kind of tried everything. I've tried big corporates. I've worked in a factory, as the factory accountant, and then I worked in a tech company. And then once I set up my own company and was working with smaller ones, I kind of realized that these founders, they get kind of neglected by like a traditional accountancy firm because they haven't got any money when they start off. So they get the most junior person who's under complete time pressure, and they have like special needs, different needs from other people. and you've got to kind of see the long-term perspective in it. So that's kind of what we do. So there's things like grants and raising investment financial projections. There's this thing called EIS, which allows investors to get more tax relief. And there's R&D tax credits. So I've been doing R&D tax credits since, when I started, and I think it started about 2000. So I was even doing it at the previous place before I even set my company up. So that's something we've been doing for years and years. There's been a whole load of fuss about R&D tax credits recently because they were just paying it out without really checking it. Whereas now they've found all these frauds. They even said it was organized crime behind it. It was like all these COVID grants. It was, there was money there, and it just attracts people to do the wrong things. And also there's R&D tax credit advisors out there who are taking a big whack of, it was almost like, when you have an accident.
EPI lawyers.
Yeah.
One that springs to mind for me.
Take success fees. So they take like 25-30% success fee, whereas over the last 6 years we've claimed £3 million back in R&D tax credits. If I was taking 30% success fee on that, I'd be, I could have retired by now. But that's really what I want to do. So I always thought really on R&D tax credits that it didn't seem a very efficient way to reward R&D if you have to give 30% away to some consultant sort of thing. So we've always tried and get the clients to write the technical part of it, and then we kind of adapt it. So the people at HMRC who are looking at the R&D claims, they're not that technical themselves. So it's almost like you've got to translate what the client's saying into like normal language that a normal person can understand. And that's so I'm kind of putting myself in the position of the HMRC person and saying, I'm a normal guy off the street, but I can understand this, so you can. So the HMRC people, they only get like half an hour or an hour to like look at each one. And if it's too complicated, they're going to refer it out and create an inquiry, etc. So that's kind of the area where we can really add, because we get so involved with the clients, we can understand what they're doing and explain it better and do the R&D claims.
Yeah. There's something that you mentioned just now that I think listeners might have picked up on and gone, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? So we're going to specialize in clients who, as a general rule, don't have much money. Is that as a deliberate choice to choose as your niche clients who generally don't have money to throw around? I can kind of logically see where the big firms are coming from and say, yeah, let's put the Office Junior on that. Let's make sure that actually the only way we're going to make this profitable, because they can't afford the big firm fees, is to put the Office Junior on them. So what was your thinking that you could make your business model work? And I know you're going to know where I'm going with this.
So this whole podcast is probably going to have a lot of books referred to in it. You can see that I'm almost as bad as you. I've got a big pile of books, and my favorite books behind me as well.
Yep.
So
the worst thing is I can name some of those books just by the spine. I can see Friction, I can see Routine Machine, I can see Oversubscribed. I can see a red one there. I'm not too sure what that one might be.
Yeah, so the red one is Good to Great, which is what I was going to refer to next. So we talk about a lot of different sort of buzzwords within the 1% Club, but the Hedgehog is kind of the one that fits me the best. So it's from a Greek fable, isn't it? Where basically they're saying about the fox and the hedgehog. So the fox knows lots of different things and tries to attack the hedgehog in different ways, but the hedgehog just knows one thing really well and just curls up in a ball of spikes, and the fox can't do anything. So that's the whole idea, that you concentrate on one area. And that's what I did, concentrate on the tech. But there's 3 intersecting circles on the hedgehog thing. So there's being passionate about what you do, which I think I'm pretty clear on. Any of my clients you speak to are pretty passionate about helping them. I've kind of got I do like to help. I feel like the founders are kind of like the underdog in when they're trying to raise investment, and you and me both like underdogs because you're like a Plymouth Argyle supporter, yeah.
Absolutely.
So and I think one of my favorite quotes is, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, which is one by Teddy Roosevelt. So that's kind of that one covered. Then there's the thing, can you be the best in the world at what you do? Which sounds a bit sort of arrogant. But if you just niche down enough, you can make that work. So
it's not being the best accountant in the world.
It's being the best accountant at dealing with Scottish companies that are purpose-driven, wanting to work with climate tech, life sciences, want somebody that's come on board that's a member of their team, and want someone who gives them like a dedicated service and has got 20 years experience.
I
don't think there's many others apart from us that do that, So they kind of got a choice of like a big firm or that says they've got a speciality in tech, or they've got like a freelance finance director who's got 2 or 3 clients, or they've got us who've got like 15, 20 clients, and give them like something in between both of those. And, and there isn't really anybody else doing what we do. But this is probably because of the third thing, which is the economic engine, actually making money, which is pretty hard to do. And you've got to take a really long-term outlook on it, because you have to be able to pick winners. If I get a client who can't raise investment, I'm not going to make money out of it because they haven't got any money to pay me. So I have to be able to pick the ones that are going to be successful. But from all the years we've been doing it, I think we're pretty good at it. So we've had clients bought by Facebook or Intel, or and recently we've had, I'm just about to do a new website. There'll be case studies in there of our clients that have raised like £1 million plus, where we've started with them when it's just the founder just coming out of university or whatever. So that's how we do it.
It is inspirational. I a few months back I saw an image, and it was of the garages where everybody started, and it was Apple, and it was Amazon, and it was Facebook, and it was just these tiny little setups. And it was just so inspirational to just step back in time and realize that at that point in time, these college kids had no money and just an idea, and to think that they would become what they did become is just phenomenal. We dive back into
the other thing on that is that you only see when it's a success, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So you don't see all the bit in between, where quite often our clients have had to pivot, they call it, and use the technology for something different from what they originally thought. There's been big clients who've been successes where in the middle, the customers pulled out and they've had to make half the staff redundant. Then they kind of reset and go again, sort of thing. But nobody knows about that bit.
No, exactly. It's the old story of the World War II planes, isn't it? Where they look at all the planes that came back and they examine the bullet holes, and they say, "We'll reinforce where the bullet holes are." And it's the ones that don't make it back that you need to study where those planes were hit by the bullets. Going back to the Hedgehog concept, because I'm very keen for our listeners to get this, because any time, and I'm sure Jace, you'll agree with this, when we're chatting to business owners about their business model, anytime there's a problem with the model, and I would even include our own businesses in this, it's a problem where you are not in that interlocking 3 circles of that Venn diagram, where you have to be passionate about what you do. You have to be, I'm going to even give you a little bit of leeway and say you don't need to be best in the world, but you need to be really, 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 really good at it. And it needs to drive your economic engine, as Jim Collins puts it, which I think is a very wordy way, a very academic way of saying you need to make money out of it. Someone needs to pay you, and pay you handsomely for it. So I've run businesses in the world, I'm reading my own notes here. I've run businesses before where I'm pretty good at what I do and I earn good money from it, but it bores me to tears. Problem with that sort of business is you can't run that sort of business for longer than a couple of years, because you will hate your business. I've run businesses where I'm really passionate about it and I can make loads of money out of it, but I'm not very good at doing the thing. One could argue that's what Plymouth Argyle have been doing for many, many years, but not anymore. They are in the interlocking circles now. But I've also run businesses before where I've been really passionate about it. I've been really good at it, only to find there is nobody willing to pay me for my passion or my expertise. So, dear listener, have a little ponder now about those three criteria. Where do you stack up? Where are you lacking? If you are not content, not happy with your business model right now, just think about one of those three, or maybe two of those three. You may find that you're just really passionate about something you're not very good at and no one's willing to pay you for. And the sooner you realize that you're in the wrong area and you need to move into these interlocking sections, the better, because you can't fix a business which doesn't have the right business model. You can't fix a business where you're just not good at it. I'm sorry to any 5-foot basketball players out there, but you're not going to be the best basketball player in the world. You need to choose a different sport. May I suggest horse racing? Jace, do you have many conversations with 1%ers about their hedgehog?
I do, but I was just thinking about my new business in private brain surgeon. I'm very passionate about it. I think I'll be, and I'm sure it'll pay me. I'm sure it'll pay me, but I'm not so sure I'm very good at the brain surgery bit. But I could get better with a bit of practice. So if you know anybody who wants to come and join me, but no, back to business owners. Yeah, definitely. That's exactly it. And well, we've obviously been in business with you for a while, and actually those businesses which, yeah, you and I have lost the love of it. It doesn't it doesn't last very long, does it? And you don't want to put the effort in. If you don't put the effort in, then the economic driving bit doesn't happen quite so much, and there is that downward spiral. And that's kind of what we see, what I see certainly with our business owners and things. And it's what things can we affect? Passion can't really make you like something that you really hate nowadays. That's not such an easy thing. So that one really does need a bit of work. Is it the economic driver? And potentially, and I know we may touch on that in a bit with Stephen, perhaps, I don't know. And yeah, absolutely knowing you're the best in the world or the country or in your area. Yeah, we could definitely do something about that as well. And because if you're not, we can improve on that. We can work that through, reading books or whatever the case may be, and put in our knowledge. So yeah.
What I really like is being self-employed. Basically, that's one thing that I kind of realized with being in the 1% Club, that you can make it whatever you want. You know, you can work with, get the employees you want, you get the clients you want, subcontractors you want, you know. Whereas if somebody, like my friends, when I speak to them who work in the big corporate, they're getting a lot of money maybe, but they've got some team member that they don't really get on with, they can't say, no, I want to get rid of them, thanks. Or they can't say, no, I don't like that client, they're causing me too much hassle, they're taking too much of my time. Was I can. So
and that's really interesting because you've got to that position now, whereas I don't necessarily think you were like that beforehand. And certainly lots of business owners in our group aren't also in that. Most small business owners are, I'm taking that client, I'm doing that. Yeah, I know they're a pain in the ass, but I'm going to do that. I need to do that anyway. So yeah, it's interesting you say that because I think that's a journey you've been on certainly in the last couple of years with us. Well, it's not true for most small business owners, I don't think.
Well, John introduced me to that oversubscribed, another book, and the oversubscribed book. And that kind of really, you know, that I kind of realized that's the sort of thing that I want to be doing, to create sort of enough demand where you can choose who your clients are. Because there are, you know, there's some people, even tech companies, that don't fit our model. They you know, for example, they want to do all the bookkeeping themselves. They don't see the value of their own time, or they don't want us to be a member of their team. They just, you know, because we're kind of different from most people. Think of an accountant of just like a necessary overhead, and they just want to pay the minimum and see them once a year and do what they have to. But we're not like that at all. So you've got to kind of see that our whole service like comes together. If I didn't have like really good bookkeeper, it's going to cause me a hassle. You know, our more expensive staff are going to have to spend lots of time fixing all the stuff they've done. So it's not just, you know, if the founder wants to do the bookkeeping himself, that he's going to put everything wrong, and should be spending his time on other things. It's going to cause more hassle for us, basically. So, and things like, if we can do the projections, we can see any problems with the management accounts because we can compare the two. If we get to know the business, we can do the R&D tax claims more easily. the whole thing kind of fits together. So, I mean, I even had a client who once said to one of our bookkeepers and said, bookkeeping can't be that hard. You don't have to go to university to do it, which is like that sort of thing. I mean, that's one of the things as well that I've done is whenever something goes wrong, I've got like a list of red flags now. So if somebody says something like that, it's horrible to our staff or doesn't value their own time, that's like a red flag.
Yes.
So my red flag list is pretty long now as well.
It is. Would you say the Hedgehog concept has helped you? Because you mentioned earlier picking the winners with the startups that you choose to work with. Does that help you pick more winners? Because your clients also need to be extremely passionate about what they do. They also need to be genuinely capable of being the best in the world at their specific niche. And they need the right business model, the right economic engine for their business. If they don't meet those three criteria, they're unlikely to transform from being a good business to a great business and therefore be a winner.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, sometimes you can almost see the person as they're going to succeed, whatever they do sort of thing, because they're so driven and passionate about what they do. And also the economic engine thing as well. Once we get inside those projections, I mean, with a tech company, you don't know for sure whether it's going to succeed because you don't know technically whether the product's going to work and do everything it says. But you can see the business model of whether, if it does work, this is going to make loads of money sort of thing, or it's not, it's not going to make money, it doesn't fly. So yeah, definitely from those two perspectives. Yeah.
So should we travel back in time again, back to you've had your health scare, you've had the clear, you've had the shocks. And I think we were introduced via one of my author book club evenings, where I love doing these events whereby a business networking group will just read copies of my book. I'll dive in and then just answer whatever questions. And I think when we first started chatting, you weren't sold on the idea of lifestyle businesses, were you?
No. So what happened was, this was kind of during COVID, which was quite an interesting time for my business actually, because I was already had like a home office all set up, and when it all happened, like all my neighbours were like off on holiday, etc., because they're all getting furloughed, and I'm like stuck in my office working really long hours because they gave lots of grants, etc., to tech companies to make sure that they succeeded still and survive. But there was like ridiculous deadlines of like getting all the forms in, and because we had so many of them, I had like about 8 of them to do at once. So I had to get other people to help me short term because there was so much work to do. But all the change then has been good for our business anyway, because before, I would just have to go physically out and meet a client. Now they just, now everything's done with Zoom, Teams calls, and everyone doesn't want like a bookkeeper in their own place. They want them, it doesn't mind if they're remote. So it's kind of fit our model. But as part of that, I started looking at like a coaching business, a club, but it was all for other accountants. And I like the coaching bit where you got time with the coach, but you only got like 1 hour a month. And the cost was something like 10 times what the 1% club cost, more than 10 times. So it was expensive. And then if I was saying to them, look, I need a bit more time, can I get a bit more time with the coaching? And they were saying, oh, no, well, that's extra on top, you've got to pay for that. And I was like, no, this is ridiculous, too much. And the whole thing was, the idea was a bit like the 1% club, that you get a lot from the network, but the network was all other accountants and traditional accountants. So I wasn't getting much from that because I'm completely different. They've got 250, 300 clients just like bashing it through sort of thing. I've got 15 to 20 and working with them much more closely. It wasn't the sort of network that I wanted. And also this sounds a bit weird, but they're all really focused. I mean, the club had millionaire in the name. It doesn't now, it's got growth instead, because millionaire is a bit of a not a nice word these
Well,
days.
Million used to be a lot of money, didn't it?
Yeah.
Damn inflation.
But so even when I said I was leaving, they were like, "Well, we may get you on earning £250,000 a year or whatever." And I was like, "No, I don't want. That's not my main priority. You know, I want to help these. The most satisfaction I get is from helping these companies, not from making loads of money. I mean, I don't want to get to the end of my life and I'm like sort of comparing Christmas movies. I don't want to be like Ebenezer Scrooge sort of thing. I'd rather be like the James Stewart character in It's a Wonderful Life, and like somebody's actually missing you. If you weren't there, you know, your life, people's lives would have been slightly different, not quite so good sort of thing. So, you know, I get the most satisfaction from when my clients succeed, basically, not from me personally making loads of money. But yeah, you guys have kind of, I mean, you did call me like a charity for tech startups. So
was that me, or was that John, or was that both of us?
No, I think that was you actually. You're the Mr. Nasty that tells me the.
That's so unlike me. I'm usually helpful.
So yeah, so I now realize you've got to make some money so that you can keep your good staff as well, and it's not fair to not pay them the going rate, etc. So having got, you know, my dream team is most important to keep them. And also I think you can't give the best service to your clients if you're like watching the pennies all the time and not making a profit yourself. And another thing you've actually done as well is, it sounds really weird, but accountants don't actually do their own accounts very much. So I was only doing my own accounts like once a year when I have to, sort of thing. Whereas now I've got like a budget, and we did a big exercise on profit per client, etc. So that's really helped. But yeah, when I joined the club, it was just like, I like this coaching. I liked your book, obviously. But it's like, why am I joining this? I'm not a lifestyle business, you know.
Or don't have a lifestyle.
You know, I've got a rubbish lifestyle. And also it really applies to my clients as well, because they put so much in and they're so dedicated to what they're doing. Quite often aren't paying themselves what they're really worth as well, making a big sacrifice. And I think you almost have to do that at the start, but they can, you know, you can get distracted as well. So I really like the 90 day. So the things that really got me, you convinced me at the start, was when you started getting me doing like these 90-day plans, and you write down 3 things that you're going to do each quarter, because it's so easy to just, you know, go in every day, just doing all your normal things, producing the accounts, answering emails, having meetings. You don't actually achieve anything. Whereas once you get this down, you've got these 3 things to achieve every quarter. And then, you know, I've been a member now for 2 years. When you actually list all the things that we've achieved, it's pretty impressive, you know. But, you know, but you need somebody like Jason to then say, why haven't you done this, you know, each quarter? That really helps as well. And so the fact that I can just get a call with Jason like once a week instead of having to pay hundreds of pounds to get a coaching call sort of thing.
Have you not been getting the invoices?
That's what I keep saying.
You're calling me cheap.
You're the best kept secret. I don't want anyone else finding out about you. Yeah.
When you first joined us, I think it was something like 84 hours a week, I think was your average. And that was something that we really, really wanted to bring down. Have we managed it yet?
Yeah. So yes. That's, yeah. So
we're 83 now.
well, before I was working, I've always taken Sundays off, because otherwise I think I would have completely collapsed if I hadn't always had one day off. But I was working just about every Saturday, and I was working late at night every night. So now just for the listeners, can you define what working late at night on a Saturday means? Are we talking 7 p.m., 7:30? 2 a.m. Okay, another book. What's his name? Is it Matthew Walker? Is that the sleep guy?
Oh, Why We Sleep. Yeah, Matthew Walker.
So I'm absolutely not a morning person. I sort of come alive at night, sort of thing. So what was it? I think they call them morning
larks.
Night owls. Yeah. So I'm not a morning lark. I'm a night owl. Yeah. So you know, I don't like getting up early in the morning. So like things like a BNI, and some of the things in your book like really hit with this when you say you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and have a green smoothie, or talking about BNI meetings. Like I went to one of those ones. Like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing that to do this. Plus, they're all, the people there aren't tech companies. It's just a complete waste of time. Where was I going again? When I joined the club, what also interested me was the type of accountants that were in the club. So I very quickly found out that there was this one called Tracy, who lived in Spain and run a practice from there. And I thought, no, this is good. And also she systemized everything so that all the staff knew what to do without her having to get involved with everything. So before, my business was all going through me, it was almost the type of staff I had as well. Like, all the contact with clients went through me. So I was like a big bottleneck. Whereas now, it's partly the type of staff that I've got as well, that I just basically have to set the overall culture, values, etc. They go off and I can trust them to do everything, and they're better than me at what they do as well, the tasks that they do. So we kind of come as a team now. I'm not like a freelance finance director. You get us all basically, but we're all really good at what we do. So yeah. I suppose another member of the club is Michelle as well. I think she'd been through the same sort of thing as me. So I think she broke a leg, whereas I had a double hip replacement. So, but both of us, I think, could see that our businesses could work without us for like a month while we were out for that. So that was useful. So now I've stopped. I don't work weekends now, and I do still sometimes work late at night, but I'll have gone, I've had a longer lunch, or basically when you're self-employed, you can work whenever you want. So I don't
Is it
start
easier
working
to say it's a choice now rather than necessity?
Yeah. So,
cool.
Yeah, because when you're self-employed, it does give you, even when I was working long hours, I never missed any of the kids' things or whatever, because you control your diary, etc. So yeah, I think the other thing that I found when I joined your club was it was so different, because before, that other club was all about getting new clients, whereas to start with, the things I was doing, another book, The Pumpkin Plan, I was dropping clients. So I was improving my business by getting rid of clients, which seemed like a really strange thing to do, but actually really helped, because the Pumpkin Plan goes on about, growing your prize pumpkins. And that's what we've done, by getting rid of ones that are taking all your time up and not doing things the way you want them to do. You then can give proper attention to your prize pumpkin clients and grow them. And also, we've got good relationships with the universities, so we get good pumpkin seeds as well to grow our pumpkins. So that book's really good as well. I think, as you know, like, I'm writing, I was always into reading books. I always read 70, 80 books a year, but I wasn't reading sort of self-help or business books, because I just didn't know which ones to read. It's a bit like I live in Edinburgh, so all the locals, we have the Edinburgh Festival, Edinburgh Fringe. So there's all these shows on, but there's so much of them, and loads of them are complete rubbish. So a lot of the locals don't go to anything, because you just don't know which the good ones are. So it's a bit like that with why I wasn't reading business books before. But so John now gives me like a continuous feed of books to read, and also for a specific subject. Like, if I need to know a book about marketing or working more efficiently, he's got a list with that. And actually, sometimes I'm feeding him books back now as well. So that's been really useful. And from all the reading and being really interested in reading, actually getting to chat to authors and stuff's been really amazing as well. That like really is one of my favorite things. So when we've had like Zoom calls with Andrew Cray or Is that his name? Yeah,
Andrew Craig.
Yeah, or Neville Wright or Gerald Ratner. I've actually read the books, and then you get to, speak to Gerald Ratner about how good he is at snooker, or ask Neville Wright, like, what's it like having all your family members working for you, or speak to Andrew Craig about should you invest in shares or property. That's completely, I absolutely love being able to do things like that. And actually, with all the books you have, and I know you're not quite as much a fan of LinkedIn as I am, but if you go on LinkedIn, you find these authors and then you message them and say you like the book, they always reply. So it's good. So I got like a chat that way as well. So like the pumpkin plan guy, I've been chatting to him, and I put a reference in saying how good his book was, and I just got this message back saying "You rock." So,
I'm a pumpkin, not a rock.
So, yeah.
One thing I like, Stephen, I know our conversations as well, because you're really passionate, I think, about people, and that's your people in your team. That's people that you work with in terms of your clients and our community too. You really love to speak to all of the people in our group as well. So I just wanted to say that really because I thought it was nice. But yeah, I just think it's just come through on this call as well. It's just about it's all about people for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I'm really looking forward to the. One of the things with COVID is you've got all these friends now that you haven't actually met. You've just met on Zoom calls or messaged or emailed, etc. So I'm really looking forward to when you have your 1% live, when you actually meet up in person. So I was trying to list and think, well, how many people do I kind of like almost consider as friends in the 1% club I'm really looking forward to? And I got to like 16 people last night when I was listing it. So yeah, it's going to be really, I think that's kind of one of the pluses of COVID is you've got this, when you actually do physically meet the people and see what they're like in person, that's going to be really good. I think it's going to be a pretty good party when we all meet up.
Definitely. Although I did hear a podcast with Dr. Matthew Walker earlier, which says that if you drink when you learn something, you will forget 50% of it immediately. So I'm encouraging everybody not to drink at all at 1% Live. We're going to be completely teetotal. It's just going to be sparkling water for everyone. All right. Is that all right, Jace?
It certainly is not. No, it's always useful to forget the 50% that's useless anyway in the book, isn't it? There's only the golden nuggets you need to remember, in my mind. On a note, Stephen, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on our podcast this month. That's where we are, isn't it? Month. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephen. And to everyone listening, we will join you. We will join you. You will join us. We will hear you. We will see you. You'll hear from us next month.
1 second.
Oh.
1 second.
Okay.
Jason got his own question. We always ask all of our visitors to the podcast, what does an ambitious lifestyle business mean to you?
Right. Okay. To me, having an ambitious lifestyle business means having the control so that you can choose to work with people that you like working with. Like, as you said, having employees that are people you like working with, having clients that you get on with, and also having subcontractors, people who can add to your business, but who you get on with as well. So yeah, I think that comes from another book. I think that comes from The Psychology of Money. Is that right? So that one
sounds about right. Yeah.
You've got to earn
very similar to Big Ideas for Small Business.
Yeah.
What I want, when I want, where I want, how I want, if I want.
Yeah. Enough money to spend your time with who you want, doing what you want, when you want. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Take care. See you all next month.
See you later. Bye.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.